Jah told you in his own words, and I'll see you through to guide you.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've got a story to tell. This is a story about a man who retraced the steps of his heritage. A man who was raised by a loving woman named Ann. A man who became the first black president of the Harvard Law Review. And a man who became the first black president of the United States of America. It's Barack.
His childhood was like any other, but it was his search for self that defined him.
My father, I only met him once for a month when I was 10. I probably was shaped more by his absence than his presence.
And what he learned was that by discovering his own story, he would come to know what is remarkable about his country.
So here it is, Dreams from My Father, a story of race and inheritance. It all started from a phone call from his Aunt Jane in Nairobi, a place that Barack would soon know to be his father's hometown. From there, the story backtracks a bit to Barack's life in Indonesia. While living in Indonesia, where he was under the care of his mother, he would loiter in libraries while his mother was off working. And there he found, in a Life magazine, a disturbing image of a man who underwent chemical treatment to lighten his skin.
They say why? Tell them that it's human nature. Why?
At that time, Barack was about 6, living with his mom and her husband, an Indonesian man named Lolo. It was at this time that he learned 2 memorable lessons. The first came from Lolo. He told young Barack, sometimes you can't worry about hurt. Sometimes you only worry about getting to where you have to go. The second came from the teachings of his mother Ann, who valued and shared education with young Barack. He goes on to mention times when she would wake him up at 4 o'clock in the morning and have him study English lessons before school began. 4 o'clock in the morning. Never mind. Towards the end of his final year in Indonesia, Barack noticed that something was amiss. Obviously, he noticed his void in his father's absence, his mother's silence, and his incomplete perception of the world. Fast forward to his life in Hawaii, and Barack is beginning to notice the power and consequences that come along with race. After all, it was only him and his boy Ray who were the only 2 black boys around, supposedly. It was this rage of powerlessness that prompted Barack to read up on Hughes, Baldwin, Malcolm X, and Du Bois, just to name a few. So what's a brother to do? Well, being the social man that he was, he noticed a pretty young woman named Joyce at school, and simply asked her one day if she would like to come along to the Black Students Association. Her reply, "I'm not black, I'm multiracial." Yeah, that's right. Now my father, he's Italian, and my mama, she's half African and something else. But look, why do I have to choose? It's only black people that are making me choose anyway. Besides, why do black people have to make everything so racial? So this means you're not coming? Now you hear this, Barack. This is Barack's
Hold up.
moment. She hit him with the Adam West Batman onomatopoeia. She hit him with the Raven Simone rhetoric.
I am from every continent in Africa except for one, and I'm from every continent in Europe except for one.
Bruh. From then on, he had to be a bit more conscious of his reality and move swiftly in these streets. This new course of action led him to contact reps at the African National Congress, and it helped him strategically plan how he'd address his own opinions and views. Now, during the early stages of his own planning and organizing, he was persuaded to move to Chicago, a place where he'd come face to face with the poverty-stricken conditions in the South Side. Altgeld to be exact. Now let's be clear, Barack didn't end up in Altgeld. He confronted the problems there by way of the Developing Community Project. Now, from what I read, Altgeld seemed to be the anomaly of the South Side. Now, every place seems to have that one dangerous spot. With California, it's probably Inglewood. With Middle Earth, it's Mordor. In The Lion King, it was that little dark spot that Mufasa told Simba not to go to.
What about that shadowy place?
That's beyond our borders. You must never go there, Simba.
There's always that one place that society stamps the dead end. Barack didn't turn away from the disenfranchised, though. He, among others, prioritized them. Now, the to-do list was long, the money was lacking, and the motivation from the locals who helped out was slowly waning. Now, I believe that Barack Obama saw himself when he saw those boys in the hood. He didn't let investment bankers, the archdiocese, or even the mayor stand in his way to see Altgeld fixed. Now, one of their early accomplishments was getting the Chicago Housing Authority to remove all the asbestos in the housing units. Now, after his team made some progress towards reform in Chicago, his sister Alma flew in and paid him a visit. They talked about everything, especially their old man. Now, Alma unveiled bits of their father's past when he moved back to Kenya and gave some insight to the rise and fall of his profession. Now, let me break it down. According to his sister Alma, 1967 was the year that the Kenyan government was supposedly becoming corrupt. The Kenyan president at the time, being part of the largest tribe, seemed to have given all the best jobs to people in the same tribe. Now, everyone else didn't bring up this issue. Barack's father, being from the second largest tribe, did bring up the injustice. Word got back round to the bigwigs and bam, he got blacklisted. This time they hit him with the bland pow. Pops couldn't get a job anywhere. And that's when things changed for Barack's father. Now, at the time that Barack is hearing all this for the first time, he had already applied for law school, got accepted to Harvard, and had reached new goals with the Development Community Project. Finally, it was time to pay an overdue visit to Kenya. Now, I won't get into part 3 too heavily, but what I can say is that Barack slowly began to connect the dots that were based on his father's ambitions, his siblings' perspective on life in Kenya versus life in America, and how his life and emotional subjectivity within it all tied back to Nairobi, back to home squared. Yep, you heard me right, home squared was a saying among the people of Nairobi that described their ancestral home. Home square for most people was simply a hut in the countryside, where their people would meet together. It wasn't the big house that they were saving up for, or even the current house that they were living in then. Now, when Barack got there, they called it home cubed. Now, I couldn't help but think of my father, and how he left behind practical teachings and life lessons for my family. As a matter of fact, his birthday is a month away. That'll give me some time to dive into my fondest memories of him. There were tons. What about you? What do you remember about your father? This has been the Black Curriculum. Something new, something true.
Yo, some ask me if I feel the Zionists are real. And in my songs, do I plan to expose and reveal? Word to the curb that's under these chrome wheels.